You guys ready to talk about blockchain as a service with Amazon, with Shruti? So, Shruti, you had something you wanted to say?
Sure. Thank you guys for being here. It's Tuesday afternoon, and it took something for you guys to be here, so I really appreciate it. Also, I want to thank someone else here. Before I thank someone else, just take a look around you. Just turn to your left or right. See who is with you here. Just looks like if you walked around downtown Los Angeles, this is the kind of people you would find. You go to a conference, you normally see people of just particular communities, certain color, ethnicity, whatnot. But Alan Agoran and Joseph Holmes have prescriptively tried to keep what Satoshi Nakamoto actually described in his paper. Decentralization to him was giving the power back to people, giving everybody a choice, every single person, not someone from one particular community, everybody. That's every single human beings on the earth. And I know Alan and Joseph are trying to do that with CIS, and I'm very, very excited to be a part of this. Alan and Joseph, can you stand up, please? I want to acknowledge you. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Well, that was good. So, let's start with your personal story.
Sure.
And so you started in crypto/blockchain 2011 before it was popular. Can you tell us sort of that story, how you got into it?
Sure. It's 2011 before crypto or blockchain was cool, and when blockchain was being spelled in two different words. And people thought online money was just out of the reservation. And one of my mentors told me about Satoshi's paper, and I read it. And as I said, what struck with me the most was how this would change everyday people. What internet did in early 90s was connect the people together. What blockchain and crypto could do was bring a trust layer on top of it, so people would really know who that other person was eventually. We're not there yet, eventually. So I started looking into Bitcoin and crypto as a whole. It was really Bitcoin. And realized, wow, this is $7 for online money. That seems like a lot. Maybe I should not go into this full on. Then I figured out that there is a way to mine this. What excited me more than how lucrative this could be, I didn't know it was lucrative, was that you could actually mine something online. How many of you thought here that you could mine something on the internet? I thought that was just a wild idea. So I wanted to go online and figure out. There was no documentation. There's still not enough documentation, but there was no documentation. So I went to every micro center and Fry's in Los Angeles area and bought the ASIC servers that they had, and I started mining crypto. It got very hot. We did not need to run the heaters at home that winter. Quickly realized that there was no way that I could scale this operation and really scale. That's what I do for a living. I just scale things. I just make things bigger. Could not happen. So cleaned out 2 warehouses that my parents owned in a small town in India. Went to Shenzhen, bought the entire lot of ASIC servers, stocked them up in 2 warehouses, and took the entire electric grid in the city down. Of course, the police came in and tried to see what was going on and what illegal operation I was trying to do. And when they found all of the servers, they were confused. They didn't know what was going on.
How proud were your parents of you at that moment?
My parents thought I had lost it. I probably did, but it worked out okay. I got 2 farm workers to help me rig all of the ASIC servers and put solar electric power grids, put water cooling facilities in. It was surreal. It was surreal in that I was having fun. It wasn't meant to be, oh yeah, Bitcoin is whatever, $15, and then I'll make a lot of money. There was no guarantee of anything except for this was fun. It was not costing me a whole lot. I'm passionate about decentralization, and this is my way of adding something to the community. But I did not want to talk about it, because talking about for an Indian immigrant woman to be doing this was unheard of. At least I hadn't heard anyone else doing it in the scale that I was doing. So it was almost very shameful to me to discuss that. I'm really that crazy person that my parents thought I was.
And how much business were you doing on Silk Road at the time?
Sorry?
How much business were you doing on Silk Road at the time?
No affiliations to Silk Road. So anyway, long story short, once the Bitcoin started going up, I got myself involved in a few of the early projects that started launching. And right now, from the last 2 or 3 years, I have decided to be part of projects that really impact the humanity in a large way, that makes it easy for the community to build and really bring decentralization and Satoshi's vision into the world. So that is why Amazon, especially AWS, where I work, I head business development for Amazon Managed Blockchain. We launched 2 services. Essentially, what we do is we help the community, our customers, build on top of AWS, take out all of the undifferentiated heavy lifting that someone who needs to build blockchain applications have to go through. So you stand up your own servers, spin up nodes, connect to the peers, auto-scaling, network security, hardware security management, key management. You don't have to do all that. That does not really add to your core competency of your application. So these are the projects that truly move me, and those are the projects that I'm involved in.
So what are specifically the 2 the new products you just launched?
Sure. We launched 2 services in preview mode at reInvent of last year, right after Thanksgiving in Vegas. One service we launched was Quantum Ledger Database, QLDB, which is a centralized ledger database. It's a centralized immutable ledger database. Essentially, the pitch for that is, I love databases. Databases are easy, but auditability is very hard. So I want something within my organization without needing third parties, without needing a consensus mechanism. So there are no untrusted third parties. This is just within my company that I need to track something, a few transactions immutably. In a database, you usually rewrite it. We don't want to rewrite it. So the example would be if you're a bank or if you're a car company that has a financial services wing attached to it, and you are tracking a car part, let's say, and the car part is already within a car that's been sold, you want to track it back to, there's a recall in motion, and you want to track the car part back to the factory and refund that particular customer or replace with a new part. Now, there are no external parties here. This is where you would use it. Or Daniel buys a car, I am the DMV, or I am the DMV-like authority. I want to know that Daniel bought a car, sold it to Shruti, and Shruti actually totaled it. So it's not Daniel's record that should be indicated on, it should be on Shruti's. So it's just DMV making a immutable entry into that. So it's a very purpose-built, centralized ledger database. It's not a DLT, it's a centralized ledger database. So that's one.
Okay, that's one. What's the second?
The second one is Amazon Managed Blockchain. This is a true decentralized consensus mechanism built-in process. It's a managed solution. It's a fully managed solution in that all you need to do is go into the console and start create a node, it'll spin up the servers automatically. You invite a peer, and then we both start writing chain code. So we have support for Hyperledger Fabric, and Ethereum is coming soon. So we have 2 open source fabrics, easy to use, scales up and down on its own, and with all of the security and certificates and HSM that comes along with any of the other AWS services.
Okay, so in summary, you've got basically really different options. One is you've got proof of work with Ethereum. You've got Hyperledger, which is more of a proof of stake permission system, and you've got Quantum, which is a centralized solution depending on any number of different use cases that a customer might have.
That's right.
So getting to those use cases, what would you say are some of the more popular use cases right now? I know it's early in its infancy in terms of blockchain as a service, but AWS has embraced it. So what are you hearing from customers?
Right. So the top use cases that we see is no surprises here. It's in everybody's guess, right? Track and trace. Track and trace is one of the biggest first approached use case there is for most of our customers to start thinking about and start innovating on. So when we start talking about track and trace, how many of us think that it is tracking and tracing goods? There's a physical object that we're moving. Yeah, that was my thesis as well. That tracking and tracing is mostly for I'm moving blueberries, I'm moving picture frames from ports to the distribution centers. Tracking and tracing also involves information. It is, let's say there's patient data coming in, and how does it transform through the treatments and come on the other side? Who touched it? Who is supposed to touch it? And who is supposed to transform it? Who only has view-only rights? And so on and so forth. That track and trace use case is just as powerful as if you had actual goods moving through the service. So that's the number one use case that we're saying. Everything from reusable goods to returnable goods, think beer kegs and porta potties as returnable goods, which is actually a pretty big market cap in the world, and or to the goods that have low shelf life, like blueberries, a week worth of shelf life, or goods that have a higher value at the last mile. Let's say a picture frame coming from, let's say, Taiwan to Daniel's house. The last mile is the most expensive it becomes. Track and trace of goods that cannot be replicated, like vintage car parts, classic car parts, diamonds that can only be shipped one now and not a whole batch of diamonds, so individual dry diamond tracking. So all of these type of track and trace use cases, apart from the information tracking, is something that we're saying. So that's number one. The second one that we're seeing is settlement and clearing. When we think about settlement and clearing, we think of a financial services type of a transaction where we see Daniel's company sold a stock maybe on a stock exchange, and I need to settle it, and then let's say Alon needs to get paid. Think more of if he's selling my goods, now I know that he sold something. I don't know which SKU he sold, which storekeeping unit he sold, but I got the profits realized because the profit is directly flowing to me. Well, he sold the goods, he knows the sales price, but he doesn't know what his percentage profit was for him, the net percentage profit. All of this takes 48 to 72 hours depending on how you've set up your batch process in a retail or even like an insurance type of a sales mechanism. So we're shortening that to near real time. Our customers are shortening it to near real time. So that's the settlement and clearing process.
Okay. Sometimes people say reconciliation, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And all of this improves by interoperability. That's what we're looking at. The third one is close to what you do, which I want to ask you about, is peer-to-peer.
Yep.
No surprises there. Peer-to-peer, there is really no peer-to-peer. It's peer-to-peer-to-peer-to-peer-to-peer-to-peer. So there are like 10 hops when you send your money. When I send my money to Daniel, and when he gets it, there are about 10 hops in between, and we know that. And that takes time, that takes transaction fees, and it also, in Crypto Invest Summit, we gotta tie it back to crypto, which is how can we use our crypto that we all have in our wallets today, that are sitting in our wallets that are not usable. Charlie just talked about fungibility. How do we use that? So how does, turning the question back to you, Daniel.
Yeah, so that's what we try to solve for. And we're, obviously I appreciate our relationship with AWS, and our systems are built on top of AWS servers. But what we're trying to solve for is, as an enterprise provider, right, we created this thing called Block Card. And there's a couple of crypto cards that are out there. I think people know, blockchain has been embraced heavily in the fintech area, right? There's a number of different industries that can be impacted, but fintech has been rapidly embraced because that's sort of P2P kind of thing. But the problem is if you have Litecoin, like Charlie, or BCH or Tron or something like that, if you sent that token over to your mom in Mexico or the Philippines or wherever, just down the street, there is a functional problem in terms of taking that value. There is a value. Maybe some people don't understand how that value came to be, but there is a value, there is a market. So what we've tried to create, and what we've already created, is an enterprise solution to provide that value for other cryptocurrencies. And here's what I mean by that. So we call it Block Card. And we're white labeling it with some pretty big players, right? We've got actually one of the top 10 tokens is in final stages. And what it's going to allow for is that a user will be able to take their crypto, whatever it is, they will be able to fund their card. It'll be converted to the token of choice, right? There's a couple crypto cards out there, but they all convert directly to fiat. So if you deposit 1 Bitcoin, it converts the entire thing to fiat, and now you're in fiat. Now, if you're a fan of crypto, why would you want to do that, right? I mean, you're in crypto for a reason. But there's also this push-pull effect of wanting to have usability. So now, using a Visa card on top of the Visa rails, you can spend your Litecoin or BCH or Tron or whatever Ripple, and you can literally spend it, just that portion. If it's $5 for that transaction, only $5 is shaved off. That's part one. So we're providing that enterprise solution. But the second thing is the process of getting out of crypto is it's not only expensive, because if you go through an exchange, it costs you a lot of money. They undercut your value of the token that you're sitting on. They charge you a fee, so that's double hurt, and it takes a couple days to get out of it. So we have the ability to where you set up 5 minutes, you set up an account, and you're spending on a virtual card that you can connect to Apple Pay or Google Pay, whatever. You can literally connect your Visa card automatically to that account. So you have the ability to fund your account, set up an account, and spend it in a matter of 5 minutes. And so we've been able to, as we scale, where we're trying to become that framework for the entire, all tokens that exist in the world, we're able to use AWS services because we can scale rapidly, right? They're secure because that's super important from a security perspective, but also in terms of the amount of servers that are necessary, we need availability. And AWS is, frankly, number one in the industry for that. So.
Got it. It sounds like you're taking the asset that we already have. Let's say you're doing what Airbnb did to homeownership. They said you have a home, you have a room in your house that it's a spare room, you can rent it out, and then how can I fractionally give it to people? So I rent an Airbnb room from you for a day. I have a crypto that's locked, like a real estate is locked within a card right now in an exchange in my wallet. There's no way, apart from converting it or using Bitcoin in some places, so you're giving me an access to convert that on the fly while actually still keeping my crypto in my wallet.
Correct, at the time of transaction.
Yeah.
And we think that that's necessary as the evolution of the industry continues to happen, because we're all trying to solve for problems that exist in different ways, and that's one of the ways we're approaching it.
Got it.
Getting back to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're a startup, right? Like so many are. So what advice do you have for startups that are looking to take their idea, their product, or their service to the next level with AWS?
Right. I'll answer the question this way. What can startups do to take their startups, to their companies, their vision to the next level to our customers, or any customers, any enterprise customers? We started off in 2017, 2016, where Bitcoin was equal to blockchain, and everything was the same. And last year, 2018, was the era of Bitcoin and blockchain are two different things, and blockchain is uniquely useful. So is Bitcoin or crypto, but blockchain is different. Those two are different things. And 2019 is an era of, I'm an enterprise, I want to use blockchain technology to solve my problem, whether it's track and trace, whether it's clearing and settlements, whether it's P2P. Now, I come upon a startup that is uniquely positioned to solve that problem. What they solve is great. Now, where do the enterprises have a problem is the solution, the product itself is great, but how about the integration with the rest of the stack in my enterprise? Most startups that do not end up selling to enterprises and lose out, even though they have a great product, is that they skimp out on integration. Make sure that your integration with rest of the stack within the enterprises is solid. You don't need to have a new developer learn a new language or learn a new methodology to implement what you have. As much of a plug and play as possible is much better. Another thing is security. Even if it's a permissioned blockchain SaaS solution that you use within the startup, within the enterprise, and without the enterprise customer having to go out of their VPC, it's very important for the enterprises to know that while they're using this new technology, the security is still maintained as it has been maintained without the using of blockchain technology. So those two things are very important. Also, the third one is make it available, the documentation. It's something that we all ignore and assume that since we're all in the blockchain ecosystem, we're all in the blockchain community, that everybody understands blockchain. Blockchain is a mind shift. It is not about you have your value chain exists already, and you can take blockchain and just plug it in your existing value chain. It's a completely different frame of mind. So having documentation, having processes helps quite a bit. So I would say those are the three things that are most important for startups to understand, that to be able to do business with enterprises.
Okay.
How do you do it? You're a startup. How do you think about these three things? Let's say integration, security management, and making it easy for customers to use your product.
Yeah, I think that last part's really important. So I saw a really great graph. It was, I don't know how true to form it is in terms of real math, but I got the sense it was pretty authentic, and it kind of mapped the adoption of users of, we'll say, blockchain, right, crypto, from a user perspective, to where the internet was in terms of adoption on the internet. And it was very closely aligned, and you see this sort of growth curve, and they're really similar, and then, like that. And I think if we're talking about where is the industry headed, right, peer-to-peer, which is what cryptocurrency allows for from a payment side of things or exchange of value side of things, blockchain allows for a track and trace, any number of different capabilities that blockchain, just separate from the cryptocurrency, allows for. But in order for there to be adoption, whether it be at the enterprise level or at the consumer level, it needs to be easier for people. It needs to be as simple as setting up an email account. And it's understandable how in the beginning there's going to be a lot of security built in for all the reasons that we need it, and it needs to be there, but it needs to be simpler. Because if you really want to see blockchain/crypto as a bucket expand to the mainstream, then it's going to take it being something that your grandmother or your mom can embrace. And if they can't do it, it's going to be really hard, or your father. I'm going to genderize that. It needs to be something that people can embrace who don't readily understand it. And I think to get further, what that's going to lead to is things like we've talked about this. You have rewards programs. So think about it from an enterprise perspective. We're all consumers, and you have these major companies. Everyone has a rewards program nowadays. Taking a rewards program, tokenizing that. I can tell you right now, I've already pitched it to one of the top Fortune 25 companies in the world, and their ad agency was very open to it. It's a big company, you'd know it. And they were like, wow, that's a really good idea. But then you have the same problem. How do you take that value via rewards, and how do you make that, how do you take that value and use it? And that's where we try to solve for with BlockCard is literally imagine if you could have a marketplace. And this is a big picture. Imagine at a marketplace where you have Macy's tokens and Fortnite tokens or whatever, right? And they all have a value, and they could basically just switch those on a marketplace and convert to whatever the value you want it to be, and then you just spend that on a Visa card, or you go directly to that retailer because they accept it. So I think that's something that we'll see if enterprises adopt, but it makes sense to me because it's not too different from their existing rewards programs.
So integration-wise, I'm a consumer, I go to your BlockCard website and order a card or an e-card. Mm-hmm. Sign up's easy.
Very easy.
I can start using that immediately.
5 minutes, and you can start spending in seconds.
Got it. And then I can use it on Apple Pay, Google Pay,
right.
all the different mechanisms. Yeah. So as a consumer, it's easy. And let's say I'm Charlie.
Yep.
So Litecoin. So you don't shave off the whole Litecoin and convert it into the fiat. You take, let's say, $5 at Starbucks. So you take off $5 from Litecoin, right?
That's
so
right.
I still have my crypto in my wallet. That's great. How about, let's say, the food and beverage companies that you've been talking to? They have loyalty reward points that can go on that. I can go back to them and get a free burger with my BlockCard. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. And it's cool because if I'm a brand, I'm thinking like every time somebody interacts with a token, it's a brand experience, right? I'm just, McDonald's or whatever, whoever. I'm not suggesting we're talking to McDonald's, but it's a brand you know. And so every time you're operating with that, you're interacting with that token, it's a brand experience, and it's a reminder of that brand, a reminder that you're their customer, or that you could be a customer. And so I see that being the future, not the future, that is certainly being one element of where tokenization can happen. And that's important because we're talking about how do we take this industry into the mainstream. And if you want to see mainstream adoption, you have to have a major company embrace it, not freak out about the regulations behind it, and you have to have regular people that can set it up an account and do it quickly, and it needs to be convenient. And if you don't have those things, it's going to be much harder to see adoption, mainstream adoption. If it's going to take sending a picture, with my driver's license and birth date and all this other stuff in order for me to get into the system, and then take that, I'm going to send it to something, and it's going to take 10 days, and then what do you mean I got to send it from here, and I got to send it over there? If that's what the system's going to be for the future, you're not going to see mainstream adoption, in my opinion. It's going to have to evolve like we've seen the evolution of the industry over the last, several years.
Got it. So this is really leapfrogging. You're saying when we started adopting email, we did not expect to actually write a letter and give it to Daniel, and Daniel codes it and sends it to my mom, and someone else writes that letter and hands it to my mom. It put away the existing systems and went straight to innovation. So you're saying you're leapfrogging.
Well, we think we are, but we'll see.
Got it.
That's our opinion.
Yeah. I want one of your block cards.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
I'll pay you later. So what are some of the challenges that companies who are trying to, adoption for emerging tech like blockchain, if you're an enterprise company, what kind of challenges are they facing right now?
Got it, yeah. Enterprise company, they see the value in blockchain, they've identified a use case. Let's take track and trace, right? Let's say track and trace, we're tracking something. Pick your favorite food, chicken.
Yep.
We're tracking and tracing chicken. The biggest problem that most of the customers start out thinking was, whoa, this is blockchain. This is a completely different way of thinking. The technology is going to be hard to learn because I don't have any blockchain developers in-house. I need to find some kind of a developer base. I need some technology in-house, or I have to go work with consultants. How do we solve for this? Well, figuring out the technology stack is the easy part. Now you have Amazon Managed Blockchain that takes care of the undifferentiated heavy lifting for you. But building an application on top is even easier. It's just building any other application, any other track and trace application on top of a managed service. But what is the difficult part here is the organizational part. Let's talk about chicken. So I am a chicken rancher, and in my business as usual process, I harvest the chickens and I put them on a big truck. Now, because there is track and trace, there is some kind of an IoT device, some kind of a machine learning or artificial intelligence stack that you have, and you need the farmer to do an extra step. It could be as easy as taking a picture that, yes, I loaded the chickens onto the truck at 8:30 in the morning, or it could be a very tedious process the way you design it in your supply chain, right? So also the chicken farmer, I'm thinking, may or may not have the technology capability as your food manufacturing company does. It may not have the IT stack. So as at the end of the day, when we look at blockchain, we look at every single node or entity as equal participants. We think of decentralization is equal to equality, equal rights. That's not the case. If I'm the food processing company, or I'm the food and beverage company, I have the most to lose if Daniel's chicken is contaminated. So it is in my best interest to make Daniel follow this process. Now, Daniel, the distributor, does really not care that it's an extra process for him, it's an overhead. So organizationally, I think the businesses are going to have a bigger challenge than the technology perspective. There's enough talent in this very room to solve the technology challenges on one framework or the other, I think. But what we need to all put our heads together is figure out what's the thought leadership of making Daniel, the distribution center guy, or Shruti, the chicken farmer, actually adopt this process, because there is not a net benefit at this time that has been elaborated for people like us. That's going to be the biggest step. Also, if you look at technology, the technology that we have in the blockchain space is like a box of Legos. And what the customer wants is a pirate ship. Daniel's pirate ship looks different from my pirate ship. So there is no blueprints in the middle. So innovation in coming up with blueprints of how track and trace should look like. What is the different type of stack that's used? Do I need an IoT device? Do I need ML? Do I need something else? Push notification. The technology stack and the organizational thought leadership is very important for us to take this from, let's say, 1995 or 1996 of the internet era to 2004. That's what's in the gap. And I urge you guys to think about where you can innovate. Don't innovate in the same places that the innovation is already happening. Think about where we're heading as an industry. And these are the pockets that have a deficit where you can plug the hole and actually really innovate for.
Yes, well said. And I think on that point also, maybe think when you were speaking about that, think about how many enterprises understand conceptually how blockchain can be very impactful to their industry, right? But one of the problems that sometimes happens, they're just afraid to take the chance. So, you're literally dealing with somebody who understands okay, we could do this, but then somehow when you're working a large corporation, large organization, it always becomes minimized in terms, we'll get to that next quarter, Blockchain is moving so rapidly right now that I think also, would you say is it safe to say some customers just don't know where to start, right?
Right.
That they're scared to some extent.
Yeah, it's scary because one, it's not a plug and play technology. It's not, you can't let me get one of the blockchains and stick it in my existing value system and it'll work perfectly. Well, you don't have a value system when you value chain when you actually start adopting the blockchain frameworks. You have to rethink how you've done business because track and trace works today, right? You don't need blockchain technology for track and trace. You don't need blockchain technology in many places, but blockchain technology as a whole brings in consensus at much faster rate and interoperability at much faster rate and makes things more streamlined, faster, quicker, cheaper, better in near and long term and has visibility and solves a lot of problems like contamination that we've seen in the future, in the past, especially with chicken or any other food ingredient we have, or tracking and tracing diamonds, or making sure the beer kegs go back to the owner because it's real wood that we're chopping trees for. Things like that is especially important. So my question to you on that is, yes, this blockchain is very important, and the customers are adopting it, and they see certain challenges. And we talked about how AWS is playing in this in terms of bringing up a managed solution. How are you using AWS today, and how has that helped you?
Yeah, so many ways. Actually, we're very proud because we're an advanced tech partner with AWS. And I think somebody's number 6. We were the 5th. Now there's 6 companies that are, I believe, that are advanced tech partner status. And going through that certification requires a lot of hoops. You have to jump through demonstrations, showing your tech, right? Pretty thorough communication, collaboration with AWS because they're very serious about making sure that your team has got the goods, right? Your company's got the goods. And so we've built our systems, which we kind of, on our security side, we can integrate. This is important. We can integrate like Splunk, right, which we have into tracking our security systems, and how AWS makes it really easy. One of the big problems that can happen if you start to get into scaling, and I don't mean scaling just from the standpoint of transactions per second, something like that, but I mean literally your business is growing and you need access and availability to servers. So Amazon is literally built in, AWS is built in every possible thing we need. So if we built a Kubernetes cluster, which we have, and we can automate the entire spinning up of nodes. So as we need to expand it, it's one-touch automation because Kubernetes interoperates really nice and easy with AWS, right? It's just a really clean product. The other thing that I think is really important is the security side, especially in what we do. Once you're talking about anything that involves, if it's just the blockchain side of things, then that's already encrypted. If you're dealing with crypto and you're dealing with accounts and account management, because not all elements of your systems are just going to be full blockchain, right? I mean, there's got blockchain operating with different kinds of technologies, right? Node.js or Python or whatever. the security elements are super, super important. And there's a lot of value adds if I had my head of technology here talking about all the reasons why he loves AWS, but simple availability and access to being able to scale our business, to be able to have many, many, many servers is super important, to be able to do it as quickly as possible, and boom, we're done. But then the security side, and that security element is not something people can shortchange or kind of cut, and we'll get to that later, because if you build your entire foundation on an unsecure platform in this industry, you will pay the consequences in a way that will be punishing for life, in my opinion. So we're very pleased with, and frankly, the other thing is also all of our customers, everybody, whoever we work with, it's almost like everyone works with AWS. So it's not hard, and the people at AWS are so, I don't know how many people I've talked to where they always say customer service is their number one priority. I've heard that so many times. It's all about the customer, right? I hear it from everybody. Right. Even the vice president of startup partnerships with venture capital, customer service is our number one priority. I've heard that so many times. So we're very proud of that. In terms of differentiation, it has certainly helped us with our two main key functionalities being, one, making it easy for people to get in and out, and setting up an account in 5 minutes, spending in seconds. And then the second part, what we talked about, where you shave off, you can literally maintain your account in crypto and then shaving off only that portion of the transaction, but no one else does in the world.
Got it. So what I'm hearing is that working on AWS, you've gotten that scalability, not just the transactions per service per second. I got that. It's when you launch this in India or in Africa, where you'll have sudden influx of people, your platform is solid and it's able to handle that because you have elastic Kubernetes service in the back end. It's auto scales up or down.
That's right.
And when it's Christmas shopping or Thanksgiving shopping, my card is going to work just as much as Visa is going to work or MasterCard is going to work. So that's helpful. So I can actually spend my crypto when I need it, and maybe not. So I can use this right after this session as well, and it'll scale up or down since I'm in Los Angeles. So it sounds like you have really used the security features and the scalability are these two things that have helped your company adopt users. And you have quite a few users pre-launch. Lots,
yeah. Pre-launch, over 5,000 so far.
Got it.
On
okay.
Blockcard, yeah.
All right. Okay, that sounds good to me. So I'll be signing up. Do you have a website that these guys can go to?
GetBlockcard.com.
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 Okay, cool. Okay, all right.
And if you guys don't know, it's I think it's AWS.com. No. All right.
Yeah. So yes, we have two services in preview, as I talked to you guys about. The Quantum Ledger Database, which is it was a centralized ledger database, purpose-built database, and Amazon Managed Blockchain. Both of them are in free preview, and they're free to use. So you can go online, blockchain.aws.com, and sign up with your AWS ID, and you can experiment with it and see how it works. And I really hope that you guys take from this and all the sessions that Alon and Joseph and the whole crew has put together, where you can innovate and really be the true essence of what Satoshi has put out, his message, which is giving the choice back to people. And I'm really excited to do the rest of the conference with you guys and see you outside. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.